Thank you for staying with us. Let's go back to the vote. The South African country, Malawi, they voted no in the Israel-Hamas conflict. We have a guest now joining us from there to talk about that decision and the reaction of groups. And that's Mavuto Bamusi. He's a political analyst. Good to see you, Mavuto.
I'm glad to be here.
What factors might have influenced Malawi's decision to abstain on the U.S. vote on the Gaza ceasefire?
Basically, we should be talking about the geopolitical factors within the context of Malawi's diplomacy. So Malawi's diplomatic position is in a very unique and sometimes very challenging position. Number one, consider that Malawi is a very aid-dependent nation. And recently, Malawi has been struggling so much to access IMF loans, World Bank support, and the money from the Americans and all those Western donors. And so when you take that into account, Malawi's alignment to Israel is undoubted. And secondly is the fact that Malawi made steps to open a diplomatic mission. Malawi took steps to open a diplomatic mission in Jerusalem. And when these two factors are taken into account, it looks like Malawi is highly conflicted because its alignment is towards Israel. But on the other hand, Malawi professes commitment towards human rights, anti-violence, and so on and so forth. Therefore, the amount of violence which Palestinians are facing, which the people of Gaza are facing, must be something of a concern to Malawi. But on the other hand, Malawi has got commitments with Israel. You should also remember, and that many are going to remember, that some 3 or 4 weeks ago, Malawi government deployed 200 young people, 200 youth in a labor export deal to Israel. So that demonstrates the kind of commitment and diplomatic alignment that Malawi has towards Israel. Hence, I think the abstention vote, and this could explain why Malawi has decided to abstain in this particular crucial vote.
But for every decision, for every position, there is always, a repercussion. There is an impact that people feel from it. What is the significance, for lack of a better word, of Malawi's decision in terms of international politics and the ongoing conflict in Gaza, balancing diplomacy and human rights?
Precisely. So you see what Malawi has put itself in a very awkward situation, and indeed in view of our human rights commitments. And of late, let me also add this fact that Malawi has been added into the membership of the Human Rights Council, the Global Human Rights Council, under the United Nations. And that alone speaks volumes in terms of how Malawi should behave itself towards resolutions that are put within the context of the United Nations. Because the second reason is the fact that the Chakwera administration, President Chakwera, strongly has been making statements supporting positions for respecting corruption, respecting human rights, and ending violence, and so on and so forth. So going forward, we have a scenario where it will become very difficult for Malawi really to be trusted as a nation that respects human rights, especially at the global level. But then again, on the other hand, let me say that in the past 48 hours, we have seen the World Bank providing budget support, resuming aid in form of budget support to Malawi government. So So the alignment is quite clear, but also the awkwardness in terms of respecting and protecting human rights at the global level is so glaringly clear, and Malawi is in a confused state right now as we speak.
Okay, we've talked about the intersection between, their relationship and diplomacy, but let's talk about the implication for their relationship with other countries, especially those who have clearly shown their support for Gaza, the Gaza conflict.
Yes, definitely. So the implications are huge. Implications are huge because, on the other hand, we have countries or nations in the Middle East where Malawi is seeking to strengthen its diplomatic ties. So, for example, Malawi has for so many years enjoyed good diplomatic relations with nations like Egypt, Kuwait, and Malawi has got a diplomatic mission in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, and all those countries. And now, when one considers the position, more or less like the neutral position, which I consider a negatively neutral position in as far as human rights is concerned, the implications are also far-reaching in as far as complicating Malawi's relations, diplomatic relations with countries in the Middle East is concerned. And further to that are economic implications, because Malawi imports much of our oil from Middle East countries. So, and one would argue that the nations in the Middle East that also sympathize with Gaza, that are aligned to Palestine, are watching the steps and the position that Malawi is taking, especially on this particular vote. Looking ahead, we may have also spillover economic implications, but maybe the Malawi government is having Western donors as a fallback position, the American money as a fallback position, which may not necessarily be sustainable, considering the need to balance diplomatic relations between Eastern countries, Western countries, but also Middle East countries.
All right. How might this also impact its standing within the regional or multilateral organizations such as the African Union or the non-aligned movement?
Definitely again. So, getting back to the times Malawi started strengthening diplomatic relations, you notice that since the times of the first president of Malawi, Kamuzu Banda, and then Malawi's participation in the African Union has been unsatisfactory. There has been a lot of apprehension between Malawi and the African Union itself. But of late, there was a lot of integration between the Malawi as a state party and its activities within the African Union. But the fact that the African Union largely is taking a position that is different, kind of different from the position that Malawi government is taking on this particular vote on the Israeli-Gaza conflict. It also means that Malawi could be turning itself into a pariah state within the context of continental integration, especially within the context of the African Union. But also bear in mind that the African Union has of late been receiving a lot of support from certain Middle East countries, China, and so on and so forth. And these are also nations which are taking their own position whenever they are voting on the Israeli-Gaza conflict. So the long and short of it all is that Malawi is pulling itself into a diplomatic quandary, a situation that makes Malawi a conflicted nation, almost like a directionless state because of the state of dependency, economic dependency, which the nation Malawi always finds itself in. So the implications as we were discussing earlier on, are not just within Malawi internally. They are also to do with negatively complicating relations with Malawi's other diplomatic partners, but also negatively complicating relationships between Malawi and the regional integration bodies like the African Union.
All right, Mavuto, thank you very much for speaking with us. We appreciate your time and the insight you provided.
Thank you for having me.